Welcome to Grapes and Debates, a podcast where we'll uncork some incredible wine and debate varietals of issues within the restaurant industry, one glass at a time. And now, your hosts and owners of SoNapa Grille.
All right, I'm so excited. Seabot?
Yeah, today is a great day.
Today is a great day. This is episode 98 of Grapes and Debates.
Wow.
My name's Adam Barringer, here with
Hello,
Chris
everybody.
Botting, lifelong friend and business partner, and we're missing Joe.
We are missing Joe.
He's on his way here.
On a very, he is.
Yeah, he's on his way here.
He's in between restaurants?
Yes, he is. We did a luncheon today for Charles Schwab.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All your investment needs.
Yes. But what I'm really excited about is our guest today. We have two amazing guests, and it is Tom and Sara Matthews.
It is.
Residents of New Smyrna Beach, 3 months out of the year.
Mm-hmm. The best 3 months.
The best 3 months. It's a gem to have the two of you in our city. I just want you to know that. It's just an absolute gem. And for those of you that are listening and watching, Tom Matthews worked for Wine Spectator for 26 years.
At least.
The editor of Wine Spectator, which is just, it's an honor to have you here. And when you said you wanted to come onto the podcast, and I know we've met Sara before, you said, well, Sarah's had a pretty incredible career herself. And when I went to your website and saw all the things that you did, your photography, I was just blown away, absolutely amazed.
Thank you.
You know, traveled the world, taking pictures of vineyards. I mean, that's...
Yeah, just some astonishing work done there.
Right.
Breathtaking stuff.
So
Thank
one of the things that we always start with grapes, and then we go into a debate, and there's not going to be much to debate today, but I'm going to start with Amici Sauvignon Blanc.
Well, it's appropriate, though, because we're friends.
We're friends.
I'm trying to remember. Oh, Amici. Yes, I do remember those guys now. Gosh, that was
Okay.
a long time ago. All right, that just hit me. Yes.
So we just tasted
like
this
three
not
friends.
too long ago.
Yes,
Yeah.
3 friends
Yeah,
that started this.
Okay.
Now, you don't have
That
to
was a
drink if you don't
curveball.
want to.
We don't have a spit bucket.
Yeah,
We never have.
we never have. And since we've got the Amici, I'm going to pull out just a few more little jewels. An Amici Pinot Noir.
Wow.
Let's see what else we have. Amici Cab.
Are you offering these in the restaurants?
No, I just brought them in
Yes,
specifically for you today.
All right.
Paul
old
Hobbs,
Paul,
because
yeah.
you've photographer Paul Hobbs.
Yep.
And then I believe another vineyard was Schrader that you
Oh,
did
yeah.
work for. So double diamond. Not that we
Nice.
have to drink any or all of those today, but I just want to showcase some of the wines that you have worked with, or some of the wineries. And I just thought it was interesting to do that.
I think that's a very good idea. Shall I tell a little about Paul Hobbs?
Please do.
Please do.
So I met Paul early on. They flew me out to do some photography with them. Gosh, it must have been in the 90s or something. And then there was a pause in career because there was a big, slowdown in the economy, and all my photography shoots got canceled. And then Paul said, Sara, I'm working on this new website. I'm spending a fortune on this thing. I can't get a good photographer. I've tried 3 different photographers. Nobody's any good. Will you please just come out and do a photo shoot for us? I went out to do that. And on the flight out there, I got my 1,000,000 miles on American Airlines. I was like, okay, I didn't know that was coming, but that was nice.
Another bonus.
So, that started my whole career back up again after the pause. And it was like, that was a whole nother story. But
Yeah.
That's a cool
But
story.
yeah, listen, you got right back into it. What a great winery you started off with.
Right.
Well, I think also the story tells something about us. I mean, I worked for Wine Spectator for many years, but we both had many swerves and stops and starts in our careers. And I like to tell some of those stories to young people, especially, who think, if they don't get that job out of college, they're doomed.
guess
It
what?
doesn't work on
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes. So, I mean, after college, I thought I was going to be a political science professor. And I went to graduate school at Yale University for political science.
Mhm.
And after a year, I said, nope.
Yeah.
So then I said, what's next? So I said, well, I still wanted to write. Maybe fiction would be good.
Mm-hmm.
So I saved some money and I moved to Spain to be Ernest Hemingway. So after a year, the novel was done. And I thought, you know what? This is not really that good. And also, I had run out of money. So I had, what next? And a friend said, let's go to Bordeaux and pick grapes. So I said, well, why would we do that? He said, well, they give all the wine you want to drink. The food is great, and the work is easy.
There you go.
I said, sign me up.
Yeah.
2 out of 3.
Not bad.
Okay,
Right. Yeah.
Did you get all the
easy
wine?
part.
Teamwork, yeah.
But I fell in love with wine.
Right.
So I thought, well, maybe I could do something with this wine. So but I knew I did not want to pick the grapes again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I went back the next year, and I was in Paris on my way to Bordeaux, stopping with a friend who was invited to a party. So I said, sure, I'll go to a party.
21st birthday party for me.
How about that?
I had gotten to Paris 2 weeks before that to do my last year study abroad program in Paris at the École des Beaux-Arts with the Georgia Tech architecture program. And then I was determined to get a French boyfriend and learn how to speak French. And I met Tom instead, but I still learned how to speak
2 out of 3?
Yeah.
Common theme here.
Yeah.
So on your 21st birthday, the two of you met.
Yeah.
And
then he was off to Bordeaux. Like we had lunch together. Then that was our first date the next day, and we kissed in a church.
Ooh.
Top secret.
How scandalous.
Yeah.
So
And then he went off to Bordeaux and
sent her postcards. I wrote her letters. I
he
said,
kept trying to get me to come
I'm
down.
staying at a chateau. You
Yeah.
must come down and see the chateau.
Yeah.
And
And I was like, wow, chateau in Bordeaux. And the guy was pretty nice. Maybe I'm going to get on the train and go down there. So that's what I did.
so I picked her up at the station and spent the most money on lunch I'd ever spent in my life. The best investment.
I was going to say, what an ROI you got there.
So then we decided how we're going to make it work. She's from Atlanta. I'm living in Vermont at the time. We're vagabonding. We said, we'll go to New York. So we spent 4 years in New York
Yeah.
building different careers. I was a bartender, working in the restaurant business, loved the restaurant business, admire people that are successful in the restaurant business. It's not easy.
it's not easy.
And Sarah,
I did interior design because when I got out of architecture school, all the architects had just been laid off. It was in like 1981, and all the, half the architects had lost their jobs. So I couldn't get a job in an architecture firm. So I worked for an interior design firm on Madison Avenue that did fancy banks and stuff like that. Then I worked for Coopers and Lybrand, and then I worked for Citibank doing their private banking offices.
Oh, wow.
all around the country. And that was interesting and fun. And we just saved up our money, but we really wanted to go back to France. And we really wanted to try to tell the story of what Tom experienced when he was there in Bordeaux picking grapes.
exactly, the life in this little village of wine, where wine was, why the village existed, and why the people were there.
And that was you wrote the book. The two of you wrote the book.
We started there. We've moved into this old presbytery by the church, and we started freelancing. Sarah was doing photography and also designing wine labels. And I was freelancing for various publications as we did the book research.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the money ran out. And at that time, we were thinking, now what? And I had been freelancing for Wine Spectator, and the guy in the London office, Jim Suckling, said, why don't you apply for a job? We need another guy like you. So I went up to Paris to interview with Marvin Shanken, the owner of Wine Spectator. And from poverty in Ruche to the Crillon Hotel in Paris was a big step up.
A big leap.
And Marvin says, we are going to make the best wine magazine in the world. He said, you can help. And I looked at this little newsprint, black and white piece of, it was like you give away in the
A
supermarket.
pamphlet. Yeah.
And I said, well, maybe. And by God, we did it.
Yeah.
You did, and it is perhaps one of the most, I would say it's the gold standard of magazines for the wine industry. There's
By
no
far.
doubt. Yeah.
By far.
So from 1979, architecture student, grape picker, to 1988, Wine Spectator writer and wine photographer. Only 10 years.
Wow.
Listen, what a great 10 years. Yeah.
Circuitous route, but it
Sure.
got us to, and you do things along the way and you think, well, where is this going to lead? But then you look back. I mean, for Tom and the Wine Spectator, he was reviewing restaurants and looking at their wine lists and, judging restaurants basically.
Yeah.
But he knew everything that was going on in the restaurant because he had worked in restaurants, good restaurants in New York for 4 years.
And when Sarah was shooting a winery, she was an architecture student. So she knew the angles and the lighting and what was special about the building.
All of the things that really go into that.
My architecture training really trained me for being a good photographer because when you're photographing, say, the Chateau Margaux, you see that building and you have an understanding about that building, and also you're thinking about light, you're thinking about shadow, you're thinking about color, you're thinking about composition. I mean, composition, when you're designing a floor plan even, it's a composition. And when you're making a photograph, to make a good photograph, you want to make a composition that sort of makes sense.
Yeah, you never really think about those things when you're taking I don't, but obviously this was what you were making. You were cutting your teeth on, making your way in life, and wow, that is just really, really spectacular. That all kind of fell together. And like you said before, who knew that this was the route you were supposed to take? I mean, everything that happens, you can look back and say, all right, that's 2020. But looking forward, you're like, oh, how is this? How are we going to fit this together, and where are we going to end up at?
Things just come together in an amazing way.
Yeah.
And so you could say, we set some goals and worked toward them, but we did not know that we were going to be in a golden age for wine,
Right.
a golden age for restaurants, a golden age for magazines.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just rode this incredible wave.
We were so lucky
fortunate.
with the timing and everything.
That's so how okay, you met, Marvin hires you, what happens from there?
Well, so 8 years later, we got married from 1980 because I finally had a job to finally support a family, and we moved back to New York, and we've been in New York ever since. And really the goal was to tell the story of wine and winemakers to the public.
Right.
And help them understand their own palates and figure out, where they fit in the world of wine. Because diversity, as we know, is the huge virtue.
Sure.
And that's basically what my job as a photographer and videographer was to tell the story. But I would work for the wineries. And then they would say, come and spend a day or 2 days with us. And then, I'd photograph all the aspects of the vineyard and inside the wine cellar. I was always trying to be there for harvest and everything. So you could really show what the story was. But you had to say well, what's special about this place for growing grapes and making wine? If it's in the Antinori's and you're in Tuscany, it's all about the Marchesi and the 15 generations and all that kind of stuff, but also about their incredible design sense, their innovation, all the stuff that are so amazing doing. Or maybe it's about you're in Chile and you want to really show that it's an incredible place for growing Carmenere. Well, why is it? So I did a whole book about Carmenere in wine in Chile. So to tell the story in images, that was really my job.
A picture's worth 1,000 words.
Yeah.
Mary Alice said the book that you did on Washington State wines was truly amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a great project. What we did was I worked with the Washington Wine Commission, and they kind of got together a group of about 12 of the top wineries in Washington, and we made a deal with everybody. All the wineries put in towards the project because it's expensive to publish a book. And so I would go to each winery and did a full photo shoot at each place. And then I actually was kind of the editor and put the whole book together to tell the story because Ted Basler, who was then the head of Washington, of Chateau Ste. Michelle, who was incredible dynamo, who did so much to promote Washington wine and, increase the education for wine and all this stuff. Anyway, Ted was like, everybody says when we go to sell the wine, they say, Washington, you mean Washington, D.C.? And we're like, no, Washington State. And they're like, Washington State, that's Seattle. Doesn't it just rain all the time? How can you grow grapes there? Yeah. So, we had to show that it was Eastern Washington, that it was dry, tell the story. I worked with a geologist who was an expert from what's the university there in Walla Walla, Whitman College. Oh. And so we flew around in the helicopter. He's like, see this down here? This is where the glaciers broke in the Missoula floods, and all this water came rushing down the Columbia River Gorge. See how the water, I learned so much, and it was also just fascinating to see all of that.
And you probably knew how to pronounce Willamette as opposed to Willamette.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
We tried to work together.
Yeah.
We thought that would be nice if we could travel together and work together, but then
it didn't work
because
out.
The winemakers were having a heart attack when Tom was coming, and they had to get ready with everything had to be ready, and they had to do the tasting and everything. And I was like, can't we get up? We got to be there at 5:30 in the vineyard because that's when sunrise is. And they're like, oh shoot, how are we going to do all this? So finally, we decided it was better just to do separately.
Yes.
And mostly I started really working for the wineries, and they would hire me. So I went to Chile 40 times, Mendoza, Argentina 40 times. I worked with the Catenas. I worked with Conchitora. I worked with in France, Bordeaux. We lived in Bordeaux for a year and a half. We still have deep connections to people in Bordeaux and France. And then I did the book about Washington State. So there was about 10 years I was really going out there a lot. California, I obviously worked in California quite a bit. So it's been a great run.
Yeah, I would say. And I'm sure those miles got into the millions.
Yep. They did. They literally did.
Once I became the editor, my responsibilities changed quite a bit. So I wasn't doing quite as much tasting and traveling and more managing. Presenting.
Yeah.
And one of the key things that I represented was at the South Beach Food and Wine Festival in Miami. That's celebrating its 25th anniversary this year. We started with them right at the beginning. So every February, Sarah and I would go down for a few days, and I would lead some tastings, and we would see our friends and all the winemakers and everything. And we started to realize, wow, Florida is a nice place to be in February.
Yeah.
Especially if you're from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So we started stretching it out.
Yeah.
And I have a cousin named Betsy Clark Cavana who lives in Winter Park. So we went to visit her, and we enjoyed it. And she said, well, we have a place, her late husband, Rob, and I have a place in New Smyrna Beach. Why don't we go over there, too? We said, sure, we'll go over there. And wow, what a place you've got here.
Yeah,
Thank you.
a little jewel.
It is. Well, you mentioned the 25th anniversary of the Food and Wine Festival. This year marks the 50th anniversary of this little thing that happened called the Judgment of Paris. From your perspective, you told a story to us last night about the Judgment of Paris, how it could have just been a wine tasting amongst some people but it was really because of the writer for Time magazine. So why don't you tell that story and the significance as well?
Just to back up a minute, Stephen Spurrier was an English wine merchant who had a store in Paris. And he and his team traveled to California, and they liked the California wines, and they thought they would stir the pot by having a blind tasting with some California wines and some French wines. And they invited a bunch of very high-end French wine people to be the judges. And so they went in just, well, this is going to be easy.
Right.
One's wines are going to be great, the other wines are not. But after the scorecards were tallied, darned if the California wines hadn't come out on top. And the French judges, they wanted to rip up the scorecards and bottle everything up. That never happened.
Right.
But there was a writer for Time magazine named George Tabor who happened to be there, and he wrote a little squib, just a couple of paragraphs in Time magazine, and boom, suddenly California wine was on the map. And that was the impetus that California really needed to take the next level. I mean, Robert Mondavi had started Mondavi Winery a few years before, so they were working hard, and Warren Winarski from Stag's Leap, who won the red wine tasting, he'd been there for a few years, but this really put them on the map. And if it hadn't been for George Tabor, the tree would have fallen.
And nobody would have heard it.
Oh,
Yeah.
But another thing that obviously it was incredible for California, but it was also it also vindicated blind tasting.
Yeah.
It told people that it wasn't just the label that counted. It was what was in the glass.
The juice.
And so that was really what Wine Spectator did. And Robert Parker and other journalists,
Right.
They started doing blind tastings. And hey, guess what? The wines you thought might be great or the ones that were more expensive weren't always better. And I think that allowed also regions like Chile and Argentina to start playing on the world stage.
Yeah.
Which that kind of brings us, kind of circles into an interview that was that I found online, and I think it was after you were retiring. And one of the things that you were very proud of was Wine Spectator and the approach to blind tasting and rating wines. And we came up with our own silly system for rating wines. But why don't you, if you could explain that process of tasting the wines, rating the wines, because I think that is fascinating to really to the readers, and how do you come up with those scores?
So the first thing is the taster has to have experience and qualifications. So before we let somebody review wines at Wine Spectator, they went through a 2 or 3 year apprenticeship program where they were tasting along with other senior editors, learning a region, trying to taste through. Spain was my region, for example. So, I was tasting 800 Spanish wines a year and going to Spain pretty much every year and trying to understand it as best I could. So then the tastings got set up. We would do about 20 at a time. Some people could do a few more, but I mean, these people that claim to do 100 wines in a tasting, no.
Yeah, how do you remember all that?
You cannot.
Yeah.
So there's the 20 wines. All you know is the vintage and the region.
Gotcha.
You don't know the producer and you don't know the price. So you can't favor your friends or penalize your enemies.
Let that influence your judgment. Yeah.
It's only what's in the glass.
Yep.
And sometimes you'd take the bag off and Chateau Margaux would get a 78. You think, is it the wine that bad or did I make the mistake?
Or is it a bad bottle?
Sure.
So
Right.
we did a lot of
Right.
retasting just to make sure that it was all correct.
So they put it in another tasting and they called it the ringer. Right? Tell them about the ringer.
Well, that helped us calibrate. So you'd start with a wine that you had already rated
Yes.
to see, okay, what was a 90 yesterday? And then somewhere in the lineup would there be another 90? And if it got 70, then something
was wrong that day. Yeah.
So we really put a lot of effort into being as expert and as impartial as we could in the tastings. And then also, we didn't take junkets. We didn't allow the wineries to give us hospitality, to put us up. We didn't take the trips.
Yeah.
You know, to make sure that the reader knew that we were on their side.
Yes.
We were not on the industry side. We were on their side.
Right.
And it's very serious when they do these tastings in the tasting room. They do not discuss anything. If you have two people tasting the same set of wines, there's no discussion about anything.
Nothing.
They're typing up the notes into the computer. Everything goes in. They put the score in and everything. Everything gets tasted, and then they unbag everything.
Yeah.
So everything's already plugged in. They're not allowed to change anything.
Let me also say that, you know, if I give a wine a 90, that doesn't necessarily say, it says as much about me as it does about the wine.
Okay.
Right? These are subjective, informed, experienced, but still subjective
Right.
opinions. And your palate, it might be different.
Sure.
You might like the wine more or less than I do. But what I'm hoping to do is be a yardstick. And you could say, okay, I know his palate. If he likes it, you know, and I like his style, then I'll like it. Or
Sure.
if I don't like his style, then I'm going to go something.
So, yes.
Because in the end, it's all about developing your own palate.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you have to like what's in your glass. 100%. I think so.
I like what's in my glass.
I usually do.
It's good. The Amici Sauvignon Blanc, it's nice. It's crisp. I think we had this as part of our wine club last year. No, we didn't. We did a wine dinner called the Feast of San Gennaro, and we used the Amici wines.
Yeah.
So it's
the Italian themed.
It seems like Sauvignon Blanc is gaining ground on Chardonnay. Do you find that
I
in
think
your
so.
restaurants?
Well, I think so, especially in Florida. I think it's crisper. It's easier to drink, say, starting at noon when I'm on, when you're on the boat or by the pool.
Yeah. In the heat, it's better.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it is. I agree. I think it's just it's coming to its own.
Yeah.
Usually has a little less alcohol. People are looking for that, right?
Right.
Sure.
They are. Did you notice that towards the end of your career, or Yeah.
Freshness,
yes?
and as opposed to power.
Yes.
In reds as well as in whites. So,
Wow.
I mean, I don't think anybody thinks going to displace Cabernet as the
No.
king.
No.
Napa.
And Cabernet represents 50% of wine sales in our restaurant. And I would say behind that then it would be Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Sauv Blanc in that order.
But 10 years ago, maybe Pinot and Sauvignon Blanc were not even in the running.
Right.
Absolutely.
And it's really tough. We can almost not even give away a glass of Merlot.
I was about to say, what happened to the Merlot? It's way down at the bottom.
Yeah, it is. It's gone by the wayside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about wine as opposed to, say, spirits?
Ooh.
Well, for us, we're definitely wine heavy with what we do.
Yeah.
Spirits, certainly we've seen the evolution of craft cocktails, and bourbon had its heyday for a while, and right now is tequila.
Ah.
And I would say, he drinks tequila. I don't drink tequila. I think tequila is more like wine than any other spirit. There are so many different nuances and influences, whether it's, and the caramel and vanilla.
Yeah, I mean the terroir that where it's coming from in Jalisco or other regions there in Mexico, it really has. Just exploded with all of these little micro distillers.
But ultimately, I think wine goes best with food.
It does.
Absolutely.
When
Agreed.
you're going to sit down to a good meal, you want a good glass of wine.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right.
And some wines are better than food, and some with food, and some wines are better on their own.
Right. No, I agree. Yeah. Some days some are are day sippers, and some of you, it just craves food. It has to be with food.
Yeah.
You know, that acidity to cut through the fat, no doubt.
Now, the two of you have worked with some amazing people over your careers, and I thought it was fascinating when you told us about the Washington, D.C., and the fact that there's a wine caucus.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. There's a wine caucus in D.C. Why don't you talk about that, Tom?
You know, there's many caucuses, which is how congressmen get together around a particular interest. And the largest caucus in Washington is hunting and fishing.
Yeah.
And the second largest caucus is wine.
Is wine.
Because there's wine made in all 50 states. And so every congressman has a reason to be curious and interested in the wine industry.
Yes.
Besides how good it tastes. And there are some government people with very serious interest in wine. But
Yes.
when I tried to do a big cover story, very few of them actually wanted to go on the record.
Really?
Ooh.
Too snobby.
Yeah. Oh, gotcha.
And one fellow who's now a close friend, former congressman from Tennessee, Bart Gordon, his opponent for Congress
Use that against him?
Against him.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's politics. When don't you use something against your opponent? That's
But I think if we're in a culture where wine is considered a negative, we've still got work to do.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
problem.
It shouldn't be. Yeah. Yeah. So we have the being the Judgment of Paris, the 50th anniversary. We're featuring Clos de Vol this month as for our wine club, and Clos de Vol was one of the wines at the original tasting of Paris, and it didn't fare well with the other ones. But 10 years later, it was ranked number one. And then you said you've done your own judgment.
Well, when we moved to France in 1986, we were trying to figure a way into that world.
yes.
Just being impoverished freelancers with no reputation or anything. But we found a guy who was bringing California wines into France, and we convinced him to donate a few bottles. And we went to the restaurant where I had spent all that money a few years
La
before.
Tupina, if anybody's been to Bordeaux, still there. Yeah.
And he got a few of his winemaker friends to bring their wines. And so we did a little blind tasting, California and France. And, you know, I don't even remember who won and who lost, but I won.
Yeah,
because the Wine Spectator guy, James Suckling, came to the tasting, and that's how we got started.
Ended up, yes.
They
Wine
gave Tom a
Spectator.
bunch of assignments.
And our very first article, my first article, was accompanied by her first photograph.
I got paid $25.
Wow.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Hitting it big.
It was a Sauterne property that was also a wine school, so we did.
Yeah. La Tour Blanche. is it?
Blanche, that's
Yeah.
right.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
That was
interesting.
like 1987.
Yeah. Gosh, I was in high school.
That was like my first published picture.
1987. That's awesome.
It goes way back. So I started doing photography way back then when we lived in Bordeaux. And since the village was all about wine, because that's what it was, they had a cave cooperative and everybody took their grapes down to the cave. There was a few small producers that were little family properties. But we spent a year and a half there getting to know everybody in this little village called Ruche between Saint-Emilion and Sauterne, for those of you that know the Bordeaux area a little bit. And that's what launched my photography career in wine.
Yeah.
And we got to know so many cool people. And
You know,
it's great.
when we took the Wine Spectator job, we felt like, okay, we're going to do this for a little while. Then the book is going to be published, and then we're going to go on and write another book.
Yes.
And
Did we tell about the book yet?
So it was 1986, 87. We lived there. I got up at 5:30 every morning to write for an hour before I went into the office. In 1993, it was finally published, A Village in the Vineyards. And we learned a hard lesson. Wine books are rarely bestsellers.
Yeah.
And we were not the exception to the rule. But by that point, we had fallen in love with the magazine business.
Yeah.
And the excitement of putting out a new issue every month.
Yes.
And working with a team and being part of the world. So I was like, okay, it served its purpose.
It did.
Yeah.
And then let's go. Another failure that
Off to the races.
Right.
became an
Yeah.
open
That
door.
leads you down another
That
path.
is, you know, it's and just from getting together last night with dinner and kind of talking about your background, both of your backgrounds, it seems that for every kind of door that closed, instead of just stopping and thinking, oh shit, you're thinking, boom,
I'll
let's
crawl
go.
through
Yeah.
this window.
Yeah, and then
Another door always
Yeah,
opens.
another
door.
And usually it's
Yeah.
a better door. You
Yeah.
know, just when
Right.
you think everything's going south, don't worry because something else is going to come
Right.
along.
Yeah. Yeah.
and it really helps if you have a teammate that gets you over the rough parts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
That's right.
That's it.
Yeah.
And a Grateful Dead fan. A Grateful Dead fan. And in that article, it said, it was one of the last lines was, what a long, strange trip it's been as you reflected on your career.
Well, their philosophy, too, was, let the good times roll and see what happens.
Right.
That's it.
That's it. And it brought us to New Smyrna Beach, and we're so happy.
Here we are.
that
Brought
it
us
did.
to-
Well,
Smyrna
we're glad
Beach,
you found our little jewel.
Yes. And I know that you're going to be here until the 15th. And I'm sure we're going to share many more glasses of wine and dinner and laughs. And the next time that you come down, we're going to have to do another podcast.
Sure. We got plenty more to talk about.
I know.
We can tell stories.
All right, let's tell one good story.
It's a good story. How about when I made the Bulgari video? So at the end of my career, I never wanted to do video because I was like, I already got 100 pounds of camera equipment. I don't want to get one of those massive, I saw those like TV guys. And I was like,
Yeah.
I can't do that. But then the cameras got smaller and smaller. And then I got this amazing little Sony Alpha 7. And I was like, this thing does incredible video. And then I was like, oh, I don't want to sit around editing video all the time. So I did one of my first videos for Katana. And they got this guy to, edit the video, this guy, Bob. And I was like, wow, he's really good. And I found out he lived like 6 blocks away from us in Brooklyn.
Oh, wow.
And just then, my assistant, Marion, that I had worked with for 10 years and had gone all over the world with Marion, she also an incredible photographer, incredible friend, very close to her whole family. She was having a baby. And I was like, now what am I going to do? Who am I going to go to South America with for 2 weeks, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and that can do the work and knows how to, So I said, Bob, you want to go with me down to South America and do a 2-week photo shoot? And he's like, yeah. So anyway, we started traveling together, and we were at the end. I started doing more drone shots, video. I got my pilot's license, FAA pilot license for being a drone pilot, and so starting to do video and having sound and movement in my images was like, wow, it's a lot easier to tell stories like this. And Bob and I did a big video for Bulgari, for the consortia of all the Bulgari wines. So that's Sassicaia, Ornellaia. I mean, there's a ton of very famous little wineries there, and they have a cool story. And Piero Antinori was one of the instrumental people there because that's kind of the beach part of, it's like the Hamptons for the Florence people.
Okay.
For the wealthy and the,
We're
the
in Smyrna Beach,
Marquise.
we might say.
It's the New Smyrna Beach of Florence.
Okay.
So the Antinoris and these different families have huge properties on the beach because it belonged to their great-grandmother, and they had like 1,000 acres and all this stuff. So during the war, they couldn't get their wonderful, wines from Bordeaux, and they were like, well, we grow Sangiovese here, but let's try planting some Cabernet up here on top of the hill and just see how that comes out. Well, guess what? It turned out to be really good. And so they were bottling it. And Piero was like, well, maybe we should think about commercializing this. This is pretty good. So then they started planting more and everything. So that's the whole story of Bulgari, how it all came about.
How it evolved.
And that's also how the Super Tuscans evolved, because the Super Tuscans, maybe you should speak to that, but the idea was you bust outside of the rules and regulations and say you can only grow, for example, Sangiovese. Okay, we're going to just forget it. We'll call it just regular table wine from Italy, but, we're still going to sell it for, hundreds of dollars or whatever.
Sure.
So that's how that all got started. So I did this great video about Bulgari, and so I got to go to all the producers. It was just like an amazing job. And there was one point where we were in the vineyard, and I'm up in the back of the truck, and I got Piero Antinori down here, and he's like, he knows everything, and he's like so amazing. And I had my headphones on, and he had the little lav mic there, and it was like I had Piero Antinori like whispering into both ears at the same time, and I was just like, and he was like so on point, and he spoke the whole thing, and he told the story.
He was a natural.
Perfect. We didn't have to retake anything. So look at my website, saramatthews.com. I still got that video on there, and you can hear Piero and all the other people talk about the story of Bulgari.
And
I'm very
Piero.
proud of that one.
You might think that a guy that totally upended Italian wine would be a hard-charging businessman or some kind of egocentric.
Yeah.
But to the contrary. I did a tasting with him at South Beach a few years ago, and I introduced him. And I said, in every man's life, there are some, in his boyhood, there are some men that are role models for something or another. Like maybe your dad taught you how to fish, or maybe you had a coach that taught you how to play the game the right way, Or maybe you had a minister who taught you how to be a gentle person and have values in your life. I said, well, for me, Piero was one of those mentors. He taught me how to be a gentleman.
Wow.
He taught me that every person deserves respect. And if you're curious, you can learn from every person you meet.
Yeah.
And you don't have to speak loud. You don't have to push to the front. You can just do your thing and it will come. And that's been, one of my rules of life ever since.
Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Great story.
Well, great story. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you both. Thank you so much. And
Sarah,
This is fun.
we really, really appreciate
We
your
do.
time and
Yes.
and your knowledge, your stories, all of it. It really, it just, it makes it.
yeah,
Well, thank you guys. And thanks for expanding the culture of wine.
absolutely. Thank you.
In our own way.
Right.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Did we do all right? Tom has done so much media stuff. He'd be like, yeah, I'm going to be live on the Today Show, but I'll just relax in the green room before we go on. It'll be fine. I'm like, you're relaxing in the green room before you go on live national TV? I was like, okay. Oh. I don't know. It's weird. Yeah.
I thought at first she probably just wandered off demented,
Right.
but apparently not.
No.
Yeah. Oh, my
Oh,
God.
really?
I haven't been reading it. I can't bear.
One year they had me on the Today Show to open a bottle of champagne for New Year's, right?